Well, 10 Investigates digs into possible failures in the system.
And these allowed a convicted sex offender with a history of problems to violate the terms and conditions of his release while out of prison.
If you put a GPS monitor on someone but nobody is watching the monitor, there's no oversight of the monitor, crime is going to continue to happen.
And Investigates Jerry Revish sits down with local lawmakers as they work to change the prison release system. See how this is all coming to a head and what's being done about it next. By now, you probably know the name Brien Golsby, a convicted sex offender, recently released from prison and then arrested for killing OSU student Reagan Tokes. Tonight, we investigate what some lawmakers consider failures in the way some inmates are returned to society.
10 Investigates Jerry Revish has been on this from the beginning, fighting for a change to the system. Jerry?
Well, Reagan Tokes did not have to die. That's the belief of so many in our community, and the lawmakers are listening. I sat down with several, Democrat and Republican. They say this is one cause they all agree on because the more we uncover, the more they are stepping up their efforts. After the 2016 release of Brien Golsby from prison, we've uncovered a combination of apparent failures that we showed these lawmakers.
Possession of a firearm, had a firearm, consumption of alcoholic beverages, AWOL.
State Representative Bernadine Kennedy-Kent reads some of the documents 10 Investigates obtained from the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction. According to authorities, Golsby ignored the terms and conditions of probationary release. Possession of firearms, check. AWOL, absent without leave from his housing arrangement, check. Repeated violations of schedules, check. If he wasn't following the rules, why was he still allowed on the streets? Golsby's history shows a life of noncompliance and violence. Even while behind bars, he was shuffled through 5 different prisons because of his poor behavior. The head of ODRC tells 10 Investigates that Golsby's prison sentence wasn't long enough. He says Golsby wasn't ready to be released because of how he acted behind bars.
Yeah, his behavior was not it was not rehabilitative. He did not engage in programming that would abate the reason he came to prison.
We're told he was released because it was time served and not because he was considered rehabilitated. So why was he sent to a community housing arrangement that didn't require monitoring his movements?
The exit program provides housing only. We do not keep track of offenders when they move in and out of the community.
Or tagged with a GPS monitoring system that didn't track him in real time.
If you put a GPS monitor on someone but nobody is watching the monitor, there's no oversight of the monitor, crime is going to continue to happen.
Because after his arrest, Golsby's GPS tagged him at many locations for alleged crimes, like January 24th, a knife point robbery. January 27th, a robbery of a couple gift cards. February 1st, a robbery for $20. February 2nd, an ATM gunpoint robbery for $500. February 6th, a pistol-whipped robbery for $38. February 7th, a purse snatching. And on the very next day, February 8th, the rape and murder of Reagan Tokes. After filing open records requests and pouring through hundreds of pages, we uncovered these records that clearly show Brien Golsby's terms and conditions of release. Terms and conditions for release that weren't even signed by Brien Golsby, which begs the question, did he even read them?
I mean, to date it, sign it, there's 2 places he should have signed here. Also that he received the equipment on the next page and back of that. You'd normally have a signature there.
On November 22nd of last year, the 29-year-old had to agree in writing to certain conditions to avoid violating terms of his release from prison. Golsby never signed them. Page after page, no signature. How can this happen? We reached out to ODRC for comment. They emailed us this statement. Thank you for your email. DRC has nothing new to add regarding this matter. Representative Kent says she's not satisfied with the way the state evaluated Golsby before releasing him from prison.
How will you approach change here?
Well, to me, he had a file. We're supposed to have these assessments in place in which we determine how risky criminals that have committed violent acts are to the public. There's supposed to be an assessment. So if we've done the assessment, we found him to be risky, I want to know if there are any more Brien Golsbys out there that have been found to be risky and all they have on are monitored. We could at least do that for right now.
State Senator Kevin Bacon says offenders like Golsby, with a history of making trouble behind bars, should get a lot more attention.
First of all, how do we keep them in prison longer? Number two, before anyone is released or put on monitoring, we can evaluate what their history has been in prison. And number three, if they're going to be electronically monitored, we need to have more advanced technology and have mechanisms to monitor them more thoroughly and on a 24/7 basis in certain situations if they're going to be let out at all.
After reviewing our investigations, Senator Bacon and Representative Hughes sat down in a closed-door meeting with ODRC. That private meeting took place last week, July 19th.
We have to see what went wrong here and then what we can do to fix it, make sure it doesn't happen again.
While we were aware of the meeting, we were not invited to sit in because we're told they were on a fact-finding mission and needed privacy with ODRC. The group says they are looking to make changes to the system, working on new legislation.
No one ever wants to lose a child, so that's what you risk losing, someone you love unnecessarily, and that's never good.
Now, just a little more than an hour ago, Alva sent us these documents. They say they are signed by Brien Golsby, but this still doesn't answer why the Department of Corrections and Alva's have differing documentation. More evidence of miscommunication. Also, at that closed-door meeting, we're told that representatives from the Corrections Department, as well as people from Judicial Conference, Chiefs of Police, and the Prosecuting Attorneys Association were in attendance. And we just learned today that lawmakers are now in the early stages of drafting some new legislation.
So, Jerry, just to drive that point home again, so now we've learned Golsby apparently signed away on the terms and conditions of his release, but he still didn't abide by them.
He didn't. And that's the concern the legislators we talked to have. They say Golsby violated these rules repeatedly and was not punished for breaking them. That apparent lack of oversight is part of the new legislation state lawmakers will be looking at. They also tell us they have been in touch with the family of Reagan Tokes, which wants to see changes in the law, too, to make sure this never happens again.
I know that family's just devastated. It seems like too little too late for them, but you know, if it makes changes, maybe that is something good that can come out of this horrible, horrible situation.
Exactly, and that's what drives the family, to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else's child.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jerry.